It's May 4th, and Krista's not here because May the 4th be with you.
I was hoping there was the tiniest chance.
No.
You wouldn't do it again.
No. I was looking forward to news being on the 4th Tuesday since last year because it was off by one day last year, and it was like,
But you did it anyway.
yeah.
I have to apologize. I was not able to source any more Diet Orange soda.
Oh, that's fine.
It's just not there. It's gone.
I did have the opportunity to get some orange soda at not the local cheap place, but like the other place, and I forgot. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll come back and get one of those because it wasn't like a convenient carry thing. And I was like, I'll get all my other stuff and then I'll come back for that last, and I forgot.
The kind you want?
Yeah.
You're saying?
No. It wasn't Diet Orange Crush. It was another kind of orange soda that I was going to try.
I found Diet Fanta in the 2-liter. But I was like, I'll find a smaller one somewhere. I went to a gas station. They got Diet Orange nothing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It can't be the aluminum. It's got to be some chemical that they're using.
I'm pretty sure that it was probably just some kind of industrial waste that doesn't kill you. And they were like, well, we could sell this as a soda and get rid of the waste that way.
Like the fluoride. So we're going to do some government news and some robot news. And we will start out with a man who was guilty of money laundering. But was he really?
Guilty until proven innocent.
This is a new kind of money laundering. And was it even technically illegal when he started doing it?
Probably not.
Probably not.
The feds have arrested an alleged $336 million Bitcoin laundering kingpin. The alleged administrator of Bitcoin Fog kept the dark web service running for 10 years before the IRS caught up with him. With the IRS. Wait, it wasn't drug enforcement? It wasn't the FBI? It was the IRS.
And they did not catch him through Bitcoin. Well, they kind of did. But he used Liberty coin or something like that. It's now defunct.
Yeah.
One of the risks of getting into crypto early. And he had used an address at some point to get that, or the credit card that he bought that with or something. At some point, he actually married himself to an account. And they were able to go all the way back through those chains. Not just one blockchain, but 2 blockchains. And here we are.
Yeah, that's one of the things. Like, the blockchain is anonymous, and it's like, don't confuse the spray of information with the inability to process vast quantities of information, because those things are different.
And you know what occurs to me? That the next story should be the one about the IRS, but
yeah, that's fine.
We'll see it later. Stay tuned.
Yeah, it's fine.
But instead, let's talk about something more terrifying.
The IRS is setting its sights on cryptocurrency in more than one way.
More terrifying than the IRS, which takes a lot. Because this thing does horrible, horrible things to you, and we really don't know how or why.
The Pentagon investigated suspected Russian-directed energy attacks on U.S. troops. Although, this headline is a little misleading. It was a Russian helicopter that flew over the base, and it turns out it was flu. But maybe or maybe not unrelated to that, probably unrelated, is that other people have been getting sick from the directed energy weapons. And the particular base that was investigated as, oh my gosh, was it an energy weapon attack? No, it just turned out it was food poisoning or the flu or something. And but there are other people getting sick, and there is like a directed energy weapon thing going on, and some of it happened on Washington in Washington D.C.
So this will apparently give you what they describe as flu symptoms, where it basically makes you like nauseous and dizzy, and like but it's immediate, which sounds horrible.
Yeah, it's a high energy microwave. I mean. Yeah.
So the same thing. Well, they suspect it's the same thing that happened in Cuba, and then this one, the one you were talking about, was in Syria, but now we got them here.
Is it a directed energy weapon, or is it just accidentally, a listening device that uses microwave transmission is accidentally turned up a little too high?
You walked between the broadcaster and the van.
Yeah,
that could be it.
Never ascribe to malice what can be adequately explained by stupidity,
or a new kind of high frequency trading. Yeah, everybody's vomiting, but look at our gains.
That guy would have never got sick if corn futures weren't so good.
So there was another, Washington testimony thing with big tech, and it's ongoing with this whole Google lawsuit. And Google is very proactive.
This is about the App Store this time. It's like, is the App Store inherently anti-competitive, or what's going on with that?
So the Google legal team is definitely working around the clock and perhaps around the rules.
Senators asked Google about a phone call to Match on day before testimony. The headline is misleading. So Match means like the company that makes Tinder. That's the name of the company, Match.
And
so
Match.com. They have several things now.
When I read that headline, I was like, this is not coherent. So the testimony, the CEO of Match basically went before Congress and said, oh yeah, the App Store, it's a hot pile of garbage, but we have to deal with Google because they're like the mafia. What are we going to do? Say no? And it's weird because there was this call with Google the day before the testimony, and they were like all friendly, and so Google sort of preemptively in their testimony said, no, we're on good relations with all of our people. Take, for example, Match. And Match just absolutely threw them under the bus. And so there seemed to be some insinuation that, Google was saying, well, it's an awfully nice app that you have there. It would be terrible if something were to happen to it.
Someday, and that day may never come, I'll call upon you for a favor. So yeah, the Google lawyers defended it with a lot of words, but they were pretty empty because how can you? Oh, I meant to cut this story. Well, let's just take a quick glance at it. We've already talked about it.
CNN Politics has the U.S. investigating possible mysterious directed energy attack near White House. This is a better, less political version of the story, and this story actually says, well, it could be Russia, it could be China. There's evidence that it's happening, in and around both Russian and Chinese things, but we still don't even really know. It could be a naturally occurring phenomena. It would be funny if it's like a satellite reflecting like, something like the space station is reflecting microwaves from space in just the wrong way or something hilarious like that.
But we've never noticed it until now.
Yeah.
You think it's SpaceX?
We need tricorders. We need handheld tricorders that just have all kinds of sensors for detecting the entire spectra. And then this problem will go away.
That would definitely solve our problems as a society.
I think so.
Tricorders. Just like when we got all of human knowledge in our pocket, everything changed.
Things got worse. Oh, no.
Well, things did get worse. And in government, things get progressively worse. But also, old things that we know were terrible ideas just stick around. And we prove over and over that they're not useful and they're invasive. And yet, these secret courts... Yeah, secret courts.
We have secret courts in America, but those are not for American citizens. That's the thing they keep telling us. Those are not for American citizens.
And yet...
The New York Times has this amazing article titled, "The Court Chides the FBI but Reapproves Warrantless Surveillance Program. Newly disclosed episodes in which analysts improperly searched for data about Americans largely came before changes at the Bureau."
Largely. Meaning not completely.
Meaning probably more than not completely.
So yeah, they're saying, hey, we see that you've behaved improperly so many times, and you should feel bad about that, but keep doing it.
You should not put your hand in the cookie jar, but we're going to restock the cookie jar. Oh, they're so delicious this time. Can you resist? Can you resist the temptation?
And we are going to reauthorize your key fob for the lid against our better judgment.
Now, don't use it unless it's a really, really extra pinky swear emergency.
And here is another example of using your better judgment. I would recommend not sharing this. As much as I like the idea of it, I don't think that good things will happen to you if you're one of the people who test this new freedom.
Yeah, the U.S. court says that the quote-unquote ghost gun plans can be posted online. Now, this is an Associated Press article, and they do actually stop short of linking it, but the picture here is misleading. This thing is insanely dangerous. It's just as likely to blow up in your face as to actually be useful, but it's sort of testing this idea. The idea is, if it were really easy to fabricate your own firearms, is that a thing? And it turns out that's been legal for the better part of 2 centuries, but only just now is it sort of becoming a problem. Kind of like how flying model aircraft was fine until everybody had a drone. And
before, you needed a drill press and some skill. Now you just need CNC because you have these files that can perfectly cut out your lower or whatever you're using. The politician that was quoted in this article said that 3D printed guns had been used in mass shootings several times already. I follow the gun news pretty closely. I've never heard of that. Have you?
That is not a true thing. That is not a true statement.
I don't think it's true at all.
No, that is literally a lie. Do you know why? Because 3D printed things can't handle more than like a couple of bullets before they explode.
Well, I think they can now, but certainly not reliable.
Well, if you have one of those $2 million, like metal sintering printers, you could theoretically, print an actual thing that's really good. The Mythbusters guy, Adam Savage, is that right? He 3D printed Iron Man armor that was actually like legit bulletproof. It would stop a 45, and it was just a little thin 3D printed titanium. It was incredible.
Now, the modern 3D printed lowers will get through, like, they'll do like big mag dumps out of them. So, I mean, mass shooting, how many bullets you're going to shoot? Yeah. But when you absolutely cannot have failure to feed, you don't want to 3D print your lower. The Uber, Lyft, delivery driver, gig worker, Instacart, all that business is, the laws are just a patchwork at this point. Europe is a little bit more on the side of the drivers, I guess, than we are, but that seems to be the way of the future.
The U.S. Labor Secretary supports classifying gig workers as employees. So, I don't know. This is an article about that and that position and that kind of thing. On the one hand, I don't like the idea of more regulation. Like, if you choose to just like pick up a thing and do odd jobs, okay, that's fine. But time and time again, we've seen these larger organizations systematically abuse their workers in a way that doesn't really have any recourse in our current legal frameworks. And so maybe this is not a terrible thing.
I also am not sure. Having never done that job or really delved into that world, I don't feel good about weighing in on it. But I will say this. Those of you who want to be employees for Uber and Lyft, stock up on pee bottles. Because that's where that goes. Just look at the Amazon drivers.
Yeah.
That's what you're going to be. You might get paid more, but they're going to demand a lot more from you.
If I never need to pee, the algorithm always chooses me. It's like the, the Pikachu of ride sharing.
Maybe we should, did you just pronounce Pikachu?
Yeah, I did. I don't know. Pikachu.
Maybe we need to invent an under car seat urine storage and extendable hose type of deal.
I think the Japanese probably already have something like that.
This is the story that I should have sorted after the whole, the feds attacking that one guy who was mixing coins, because when the IRS seizes coins, they auction them off, and they make quite a bit of money doing that, especially with the huge appreciation of Bitcoin. But smart people will put them on hardware wallets, and they're usually very, very hardened. So what do?
The IRS wants help hacking cryptocurrency hardware wallets. As more investors and criminals move to hardware wallets to secure their funds, the IRS is looking at new methods to access those wallets in criminal investigations.
If I call them up and I'm like, oh, I finally got in, nothing there. How do they know the difference?
They probably want the proof, I guess. It's like, I don't know. So
I go and get an identical key storage for the casing, and try to get it as close as possible. Like the paint the little blemishes onto it.
This does get into dangerous territory of like prove that you don't have something, and it's like okay.
Well, you mean like when you're driving with cash?
Yeah, and it's like, oh, we're going to charge the cash criminally, and it's like, that's not even, how does that even work?
Prove you own it. Very dangerous. I think there are so many lessons we've learned about storing cryptocurrency on hard wallets. I hope people are picking up all those lessons.
I mean, my threat model isn't probably like naive, but just print it out.
Print the Bitcoin?
Yeah, print. You can print out your keys.
But you need the wallet file, right? No?
You can do it all completely in paper.
Tesla had a really good year, but as usual, the regulators are on their tail, doggedly attacking them for doing things that they shouldn't do.
Tesla accused of environmental rule violations in U.S. and Germany. The headline is Tesla. So in Germany, the deal is they're supposed to take back their batteries, and they are, but they're not filing the paperwork properly, which, Germany has got its panties in a twist about that. All right, fine. And then in California, there's something about a paint repair tent. They just set up a tent to do it, and you're not supposed to do that because of the aerosolized paint and a lot of other vapor and stuff escapes that. And so they've supposedly fixed that. But again, regulatory paperwork, they didn't dot the I's and cross the T's, so they say. Tesla's already said they don't expect production to shut down or this to have any really material adverse impact on anything they're doing. But at the same time, it seems kind of sloppy.
Well, the whole point of the tent is because the paint was so sloppy that they were coming back in at such a rate, they had to triage with the tent.
And then we have to get a permit for the tent, too? Man, you guys are just killing us.
Meanwhile, in space, his satellites are really actually doing a good job, and people are liking them, but we need more performance. I think the interest was more than anybody guessed, and perhaps the potential was more than anybody guessed, but you got to make some changes. And again, you can't do anything in space without regulatory approval.
The FCC has greenlit SpaceX satellite plans. Now, Blue Origin had some objections, but SpaceX is going to deploy even more satellites, and they're going to put some of the satellites in a lower orbit to better cover the polar regions. And the FCC said, yeah, sounds good. SpaceX does actually have a pretty good track record for managing their Starlink satellites so far. The thing that Amazon was worried about was that would materially impact their plans for deploying a global nationwide satellite network, or a global, all-encompassing satellite network. But it sounded like by the end of it, the FCC had a very minor stipulation, and so Amazon was happy with that. So I guess it's a win-win.
I bet Blue Origin was planning to launch theirs lower to fix what they saw with his, which is the beauty of coming second. So that probably ruined those plans. That's probably why they're angry. Here's a terrifying headline because they do clarify. I read the headline. I was like, well, they're not talking about all cars because all cars don't need this. But nope. Yep. Talking about all cars. Yep. Amazon drivers, we're all coming to join you.
New bill could mandate driver monitoring systems in future cars. The SAFE Act, introduced today, would prompt the DOT to investigate these systems and rule on whether they should be mandatory in vehicles. Spoiler alert, they're going to be mandatory in vehicles. Not only that, but the horrible oppressive algorithm that more and more rules our lives and chooses the words that we have to deliberately mispronounce? Well, guess what? When something happens to you, it's going to be algorithmically determined if you're at fault. And there's going to be edge cases, and it's going to get it wrong probably a significant percentage of the time, and there's going to be exactly zero recourse because no one cares.
And if you think it's tough to get, Google on the phone, think about how tough it's going to be to get Allstate on the phone when they've already decided.
Allstate will have automatically been sent your driving black box records as a result of your thing being plugged into the network.
Yeah, but I'm saying once it's settled and they tell you they're giving you nothing, there's going to be no recourse.
Even if it's not your fault, they're going to automatically get data from your car as a result of being enrolled in the insurance program, like as a requirement. And they're going to use any little thing in the box to not pay your claim.
Which they already do.
Yeah.
Well, they don't have that data, but they already try to do everything they can. Apple is, of course, the antitrust thing. Apple and Google both are just, everybody hates them because of what they're doing with their app stores. And now we have another complaint.
Apple set to get EU antitrust complaint over Spotify. This article was written yesterday. This morning, they got the complaint. Oh, man, and it's a doozy.
And it's pretty accurate, too. I mean,
yeah.
How do you defend that?
It's going to be billions and billions of dollars. The EU's going to have their budget filled for the next 5 years from this one infraction.
They'll just raise the budget. There's never enough. So it's all about, like Spotify and how they do their billing through Apple or not and blah, blah, blah. It's the same old story, but the EU court will get to look at it. Over in China, it was a historic week for them because they launched. I said last week, I love the idea of nationalized space stations. I can't wait till everybody has a space station.
I'm pretty sure that's the joke in the name of this thing.
Well, you're saying that's ironic because it's the opposite of what's going to happen. I bet there's some sort of defense system.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yeah.
I would love to learn about it.
China to launch Heavenly Harmony Space Station Core Module. So that's what they named it, the Heavenly Harmony. And also, this is also China showing off of their rockets. There's a really hilarious quote in this article that doesn't mean to be hilarious, but it's basically like China has demonstrated technology on par with SpaceX and Blue Origin, but not exceeding their capabilities. And it's like the phraseology there is like, oh, they copy pasted that technology and they've got it up and running, but they're waiting on us to improve to copy paste that technology.
So that is the core, but there are going to be 11 total modules that are going to get Legoed together once it's up there. Then 3 people are going to live up there.
Yeah. I forgot what the series. There's a series on Netflix where it's like I think it's Space Force. I think it's called Space Force.
Oh yeah.
And they're always like in space doing stuff, and like China shows up with the really advanced like space robots, and they're always doing everything way ahead of and way better than whatever the American mission is. It's a recurring joke. It's really funny.
There's another show, I can't remember which service it's on, but I've been thinking about checking it out. For All Mankind, have you watched that?
Mm-mm.
It's like a space, I think it's a reimagining, like an alternate history space race type of thing. Oh, speaking of TV shows, Shadow and Bone is fantastic.
I haven't seen it.
You got to check that out. China, they're launching into space. They're doing a lot of new stuff. They've conquered Hong Kong. They're riding high. Those Uyghurs, not a problem anymore.
Were they ever a problem in the first place?
Tibet and Taiwan, well, they're on the list. But
how is a Tibetan monk a problem? I don't understand.
well, they've got martial arts. But one thing about that is when you operate a country like that, you make a lot of enemies. And you've got to keep an eye on those enemies. And they'll do pretty much anything.
The Guardian is reporting that China has ordered companies to step up monitoring of foreigners in anti-spying push. The state security will provide quote-unquote guidance to organizations deemed to have anti-espionage responsibility. That's a weird way to say that. It's like, you have a responsibility to help us with your... I make waffles at a 7-Eleven. What am I doing?
Waffles at a 7-Eleven? Is that a thing? How diamond hard would Tim Cook's erection be if the U.S. government called him up and said, we're going to need you to spy more?
We're going to pay for it and we're going to make it law. And then he'd be like, all right, sounds good.
He's like, oh, wait, you guys heard about Operation Draco? I thought we kept that quiet. But yeah, we'll have that up Tuesday.
That's basically, it's not mentioned here either, but things are getting really tense in Taiwan because, the foreign minister there was something about like, oh, if you've got job listings that don't hire Chinese nationals, and it's like, things are getting real dicey here.
And it's so dicey that even when Chinese nationals do something, if it's not something that the Communist Party cares for, it must be memory hold.
China Censors Nomadland director Chloé Zhao's Oscar win. Hopefully I got that right. I'm sorry if I didn't. So this is weird. Okay, like she won, but I guess it must be that a woman director must not, like, we must make sure that the population doesn't see an empowered woman.
Western movie.
But okay,
she's making media for the enemy.
Oh,
yeah. So she's been memory hold. They interviewed one anchor at a news station, and they're like, why are you not talking about this? She's Chinese. This is the first time a Chinese national has ever won this award, and one of the few times a woman has won it. What are you doing? And she was like, what I'm told.
Congratulations on your accomplishment. Never return home.
And start using Signal for your family. Well, if you can find them.
That would be a weird. I wonder, like, there should be, like, we, in the U.S., if we're going to do things like this, we need a hotline at the embassy where you can call them and be like, I just won the Oscar. I need you to extract my family. And no questions asked. There would be a SEAL team, deployed within 6 hours, and her family would be safe.
I don't want my tax dollars going to that.
I think that there are many, many things that I would put toward my tax dollars that ahead of what they actually go to now.
Oh, well, of course. I mean, that's always true, no matter what it is. Turkey, we have certainly a bit of a frenemy relationship with Turkey, you could say. Sometimes it gets outright hostile. And they, like China, don't like a lot of our Western culture bleeding in, which is why this happened.
A second Bitcoin exchange collapses in Turkey amid crackdown on cryptocurrencies. So the owner of this one just fled the country. He's gone.
He took billions with him.
Oops.
But they will track that down. The blockchain, the Bitcoin blockchain, you don't escape it.
No.
The IRS can find you.
Would be crazy if the IRS turned into bounty hunters for other countries. Like they pad their income by, the president of Turkey calls the IRS up and is like, okay, we'll give you $5 million if you hunt this guy down. It's like, oh, we found him in Brazil.
But they're already hunting American nationals in those countries.
Yeah,
that would be very easy for them to do.
Yeah, it would be very cost effective, and they would actually earn a lot of money doing that.
We just need a percent. We'll work commission.
Congress needs to okay that, and then operate.
Can you imagine the international outrage when they started doing that in like Finland or something?
We sent in a black ops team. Were they a terrorist? No, they were a tax dodger.
They were a Bitcoin holder. And speaking of Bitcoin, it's always been a mystery of who actually invented it. The white paper came out. There was a fake name, and we've always been guessing who it is. There's one man who claims he is it and that he has proof.
But he keeps fumbling the proof.
Never presented the proof. And now, maybe finally, it'll be put to rest. Is he or is he not?
A new lawsuit could weigh in on who's the real inventor of Bitcoin and why its creation is still shrouded in mystery. This lawsuit is almost pointless. There's the original Bitcoin paper is hosted on bitcoin.org, and Craig Wright would like to take it down, which is weird. Like, why is this the hill that you would die on?
Whoever wants their white paper taken down.
I mean, with over $50 billion in why would you care?
Yeah. Well, maybe he sold too early.
Well, those have never moved, though. I mean, it's a blockchain. We can see.
Oh, okay. So the original wallet, yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing has ever really happened with them.
Also, if like anything you gained, now, this is what you're going for, but anything you could gain from winning this lawsuit, you could gain 100 times over by selling 10%.
Or not even 10%. 1% would probably do it.
I mean, the fame you could get, the power you could get.
This isn't the first time he tried to do this. The last time he tried to do this, he uploaded a PGP key that the date time apparently had been forged. So it was like, oh, look, this key was made at the right time, but it was actually created with an algorithm that didn't exist at that time. Oops.
I think at this point, it's one of those things where he started telling a lie, and he's so deep in it now, he can't extract himself.
Yeah.
So you just have to it's like you're heading toward the waterfall on the river, but you can't swim away. So that'll be fun to watch.
And there's no barrel.
No, it's an inner tube. The EU has introduced some other rules. This one is more about social media, but I guess just the web in general, and it has to do with stuff they don't like.
EU adopts a 1-hour takedown for terrorist content. Basically, when the EU hits the big red button, you've got an hour. Otherwise, they're coming for you.
Or you have to prove to them that you could not realistically do it in that hour. Do you think I was asleep counts?
I think if you're Facebook or Twitter, you could probably afford the 24/7 staffing, but yeah, if we get the on the Level 1 forum, it's like you got to take this down in an hour. It's like I'm just going to turn the servers off.
I don't think that they
don't care.
Mandated a minimum income or anything like that. It affects everybody, I think. So yeah, unfortunate. And France also has a problem with free speech, which they call extremism. But as we've learned from Facebook, it's very, very difficult, and it's actually damaging to the human psyche to deal with all that stuff, to review it, to see if it's actually bad, to get rid of it. It's a real problem. And France is planning to try something that Facebook already failed at, which I don't think will work for them.
France planning to allow the use of algorithms to detect extremism online. What could possibly go wrong? You know what the first thing it's going to detect is? The episode of I Love Lucy where she goes to the French restaurant and has oysters, and it's like oysters are definitely a first-time experience for Lucy, and she asks for ketchup, and the chef thinks something has gone horribly wrong with the oysters and is like freaking out in French. It's going to think that's extremism.
I guess that is still airing somewhere.
Only in my head, over and over and over again.
I don't know if this counts for TV, though. I think it's for the internet.
That'll be it's somewhere on the internet.
You think anybody is there like a terrorist public access channel somewhere?
Twitter.
No, but I mean it has to be on the TV networks. So that free time thing. Do they still do that?
I don't think so. Man, that was one of the best parts of growing up somewhere rural is all those people just making their own TV shows with the camcorder. Those were amazing.
Like Cutlery Corner, the guy that sold knives. I mean, that was national, but that was so fantastic. Be dialing. Self-driving cars, they don't exist. We don't have them. We have a poor approximation of them, but that doesn't stop laws from being created as if we do have them.
Self-driving cars to be allowed on UK roads this year. Woo! It's coming to you.
So
Exciting times.
Right now, this is just lane assist, but they make the mistake that Tesla made that is causing so many problems. Why do you call this self-driving?
It's not exactly self-driving.
It's not even remotely self-driving.
It's driver assist at best.
And that's what you should call it. No, you should call it lane assist because that's what it is.
Have you noticed that some of I didn't realize this was happening, but some of the driver assist features now will also automatically turn on your turn signal. It's like, oh, you're not using your turn signal. You're a horrible person. Let me just handle that for you.
But it's going to get it wrong.
Sometimes, yeah.
And then that's something we used to do in high school was just use the wrong signal and watch the people behind it. Man, that was so stupid. Shouldn't have done that. And they shouldn't do this. And that is the start of the robot section, by the way. And continuing on in the robot section, not quite as impressive as AlphaGo, this technology, but it did solve something that has never been solved with AI before.
An AI finally won an elite crossword tournament, and its name is Dr. Phil, F-I-L-L.
That's great.
That is sort of great. So it was a combination word search algorithm and AI that had read Wikipedia and a bunch of other sources like that to try to figure out clues.
It's an AI that knows trivia. What could be more annoying than that? And it did make 2 mistakes, got words wrong in 2 cases, but it was so much faster than the closest human competitor, it didn't even matter.
Yeah.
It won hands down. Also, the first time they didn't do this one in person, and I imagine a lot of people were cheating. Don't you?
Yeah, probably.
What a sad thing. I mean, you think it's sad to cheat at that, but then you realize that people cheat at like Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Which is even sadder. Girl Scout cookies. Man, I haven't had Girl Scout cookies in a long time.
Yeah, me either. Haven't even seen Girl Scouts. This story is the story where I stopped reading and I looked up and I was like, this is it. This is how I know I'm living in the future.
I think, my policy of avoiding children at all costs hurts me in this one example.
Well, now you don't have to worry about it.
That's right. I never have to be around children at all, and I can still enjoy those peanut butter ones. Oh my God.
Girl Scout cookies take flight in Virginia with drone deliveries. So they've got a drone there, and it's like, oh, you ordered some cookies? All right, we'll get them there by drone because in person not great.
So Virginia is the place where they've already cleared all these regulations. I think UPS is doing their testing there. Probably everybody is. So the laws actually allow this kind of thing.
This is it, ladies and gentlemen. This is how we know we're living in the future. You can now get, your Thin Mints or whatever delivered by drone.
How long until we start the pipeline where you go straight from the Girl Scouts into the Reaper drone program?
I was thinking about the robots are replacing the supply chain at every stage.
And when you have robots in your home, you must learn to live with them. You must learn their quirks because otherwise you will be terrified.
It's another story full of robo-prejudice right here.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I think this vacuum has a lawsuit.
Someone called the cops on their own smart vacuum. This family was woke up by horrible crashing thud sounds. The police came with a battering ram, burst the door open, and they found the smart vacuum at the bottom of the stairs. The sound was the sound of it tumbling down the stairs.
And once it got to the bottom of the stairs, like just banging into stuff, trying to navigate away from a tiny. I got the idea it was one of those little landings at the bottom of the stairs. Then it turned a corner.
Oh yeah,
and they just couldn't get out. Yeah. So
how did I end up here? I'm taking a tumble.
She claimed that her son he was supposed to vacuum, but instead of vacuuming, he just set that thing up, maybe on a timer or something. But it happened at 1 a.m.
He probably meant 1 p.m. and didn't understand that was 13 o'clock.
He fumbled everything about this.
Well, they're going to need a new front door. That's going to be like $600 plus.
Yeah, oh, you just have to replace the
little side thing. But then it's never the same, and it never shuts right. And
also, pro-libertarian tip, you can buy a kit that will harden your doors against kicks that's really cheap and easy to install.
Oh, is that the one where it's got the levers that go inside the door, so when you lock it, it puts pins in the top and bottom? Those are cool.
No, well, you can go that far, but this one just reinforces the part where the latch is.
I saw one where you just like it cuts a slot out of the side of the door, and then there's a bar that goes in like where the deadbolt goes, and it makes the whole thing sort of mate together. So like when you deadbolt it, the pins go in the top and the bottom, and then where the regular deadbolt is, and that part of your door will no longer fail. It'll be the hinges that fail.
Right. Well, there's a lot of different versions of that, but they're all good enough for a police kick. Now, when they bring out the battering ram, the hinges will fail.
Yeah.
So, but how much time does that give you to run?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Or, hit the safe room panic button. Doesn't save you from the cops, unfortunately. And finally, I don't think any robot will ever take Flippy's star power. And this one doesn't, but it is impressive, and it does work in the same industry.
Robot that can cook a paella, is that how you say that? Is causing quite a stir in Spain. Stir in Spain, because wok and paella. They really needed a video for this. And that I haven't had lunch yet today, and now all I can think about is paella. I'm like,
I've never had it.
Oh, there's a food truck here that has those, and it's really good.
We should try to sell them one of these robots.
That's the only reason I knew how to pronounce that.
So apparently that is a huge...
It's probably still wrong.
It's like no, I think that's right. I think it's a real staple in Spain, apparently, and a lot of people are outraged just because there's a robot doing it.
But it's doing it so well and so repeatedly.
But you do have to load all the stuff in there.
Or it can reach it, yeah.
And then it does it. It stirs it and monitors it.
The company talked about how it could also do like croissants and pizzas if you give it the oven attachment, and burgers if you gave it the grill attachment. So apparently they've got everything figured out, which is awesome. I mean, I for one welcome our automated food truck overlords.
How cool is it be if you're going to combo the driverless automation truck with this? So you order food, and the food is being cooked as it drives to you. And
Yeah.
It's piping hot when you get it.
Yeah,
That's
it's
the
like,
dream.
I would love nothing more than to get a text message from Bert, the robot, and it's like, hey, I've got your lunch ready. It's like, oh, thank you, Bert.
Please select the temperature you would like your soup to be when I serve it to you. Like, that's the beauty that we're going to have sometime in our life.
Can I get this in my house? I mean, honestly, I would kind of like to have, like, maybe we could combine Blue Apron with, like, the robot services. And it's like a payment plan kind of a thing. It's like, if I can have a robot that cooks elaborate and healthy meals, that would be amazing.
You're going to end up paying, like, $6 for a carrot when you do it that way.
That's Jeff Bezos' business model.
Right.
Yeah, that's great. All right, what do we got for tomorrow?
Business, and I don't remember, whatever the smallest other section is.
There's a couple business stories that have tie-ins for these government stories too, which are pretty interesting. So it's interesting. We got a lot of nonsense this week too.
So you can't miss it.
Yeah. No Krista this week though.
Oh yeah, we forgot to mention. She's fine. She just had some family stuff to deal with.
We lost Krista, but we gained Linode. So be sure to check out that Linode link.
We'll see you tomorrow.
It's May 5th. We've got business and social today. Krista's out.
Be sure and leave a comment to let Krista know that she's missed.
She's got a garden update video on the forums.
She's really throwing herself into the garden thing for sure. She seems to enjoy it. I wonder if this level of gardening fervor is sustainable. You don't think so? Think it'll be something new next year? Think it'll be a kitten and then a baby? Yeah.
Maybe not in that order.
Well, Krista isn't the only one working on exciting new things. TSMC is also working on exciting new things, and they're the only ones, it seems, who are able to work on these exciting new things.
TSMC update, 2 nanometer in development, 3 and 4 nanometer on track for 2022. But the headline here really is that Apple is in full production of 5 nanometer. So, I don't know. The Anitech article has a bunch more information. This is just, 5 nanometer. The M2, the M1 is selling like hotcakes. We've got a ton of stories about that are related to that. TSMC is absolutely killing it, and that's really impressive considering the global shortages for darn near everything. I can't even get ceramic capacitors. So,
and TSMC is also, they call those the big customers like Apple the alpha tier customers, and they're looking to bring on more alpha tier customers for the really, really advanced stuff.
Like other companies that are struggling. Intel, for example. Oh, too soon.
Why would they need this technology? And iOS 14.5 is out. It's got some new features, and I don't really care about it. But the big one is that one that Google and everybody else are so upset about.
iOS 14.5 delivers unlike iPhone with Apple Watch and more diverse Siri voice options and new privacy controls. And the privacy controls, of course, are what you're alluding to.
Yep, it's finally happening. When you start seeing this.
Allow app to track your activity across other companies' apps and websites. This is a kind of malicious compliance. Like, Apple is not in a position to care about this. But if Apple made money from advertising, this wouldn't even be a thing. But it's also, it's not like that Apple is good. Apple is hideously evil. They're just, this whole situation is just frustrating.
Also, every possible combination in terms of race and gender for the heart emoji.
Oh.
Critically important.
Excellent.
Been waiting for so long for that. And Apple, perhaps flying on the thermals of the success of that M1 chip, doing a little expansion.
Apple to establish North Carolina campus, increasing the U.S. spending targets. This is going to be in the technology, triangle, I guess is what that's called. And they're going to hire a lot of developers and programmers and smart people to work on stuff, which I think is probably long overdue.
I bet a lot of that Biden money is going to make its way onto the Apple campus.
Yeah. It would be fine if Apple wasn't hideously evil. They're the worst kind of evil because they're not plainly evil. You have to dig into their motives, and it's like, they're manipulating things.
Yeah, and one of the things that you can do when you have that level of influence and power is you can question the very definition of basic words, like buy.
Or own.
Yeah, those seem like really, really basic things. In fact, our whole culture is based on it. That's what we do. We're capitalists. But Apple says, you don't understand that word.
Apple must face a lawsuit for telling consumers that they can buy movies and TV shows. So it turns out when you bought something from Apple, it could disappear at any time. There's an ephemeral component to it. Now, the guy involved in the lawsuit hasn't actually lost access yet, but he could if things are down. And so he's saying that he didn't understand that when he made the purchase. And, yeah.
Here's the quote that Apple says, and they said this with a straight face. How could you? How hard do you have to sell your soul to tell this lie and be able to do it?
Apple contends that no reasonable consumer would believe that purchased content would remain on the iTunes platform indefinitely.
You're unreasonable.
I bought a record. I don't expect it to, evaporate in a couple of years. But it could.
Well, I mean, over time, I suppose it could. Everything will just break down. But it'll last longer than a human.
Probably.
Yeah. The iTunes store, not so much. And when it comes to feeding people video, giving them video content, of course we think of Apple. We think of Netflix as the big one. Netflix seems to be the beloved one.
We think of our beloved subscribers on Patreon and Floatplane.
And that's the weird thing. Because we also have subscribers on YouTube.
No.
But we don't get much from that.
The algorithm doesn't want us to have those.
The algorithm doesn't much like us, and they certainly don't want to share any of the money. Up until recently, they reported all of their earnings as one big Google blob. But since they spun off YouTube, they've been reporting it separately, and now we know this.
YouTube is a media juggernaut that could soon equal Netflix in revenue. YouTube is on pace to bring annual revenue comparable to Netflix. Wow, you would certainly never know that by looking at ad revenue.
God, doesn't Netflix invest a lot in their intellectual stuff?
Like billions of dollars?
They pay people to make these shows. What a crazy business model.
Patreon.com/Level1.
How long until Netflix comes out to their biggest producers and it's like, could you guys just start selling T-shirts because we don't really want to pay you?
That would be kind of depressing. It's like, what were you talking about? Bone and Fire or something?
Shadow and Bone.
Shadow and Bone. It's like the actors come out and we're like, we've got our own Patreon. We want to keep going with the
GoFundMe.
Yeah.
Season 2.
I would actually do that. I would, like, if there was like a season 3 of Altered Carbon crowdfunded, I would be all about that.
That's happened a couple times already, hasn't it?
With some things, yeah. I think it came back that way, surprisingly. Initially, it was the crowd interest in it.
That would not have been one that I would have fought for.
They messed up the ending really bad. Like, it was really good when it was at its peak. If it could be at its peak again, I would pay for that.
You can never go back.
Yeah.
And if you are one of those people who hates the new world of streaming because the human frailty of indecision, there's that great story. I remember reading about the marketing stuff when I was reading about Bernays and all that, about the ice cream company.
Yeah, you can't have too many choices.
Too many flavors will wreck your ice cream sales because people are just like, I don't know. And as someone who's been trying to find diet orange soda, I'm overwhelmed by the number of things you can buy, and Netflix has finally figured out that that's a problem, and this is their solution.
Play something. Netflix launches a button for indecisive couch potatoes. You literally just hit play something, and it'll just play it, and then you can say, did you like that, or did you not like that? And then it'll find other things to do. That makes sense.
And it gives them a nice new data stream.
I've noticed this also happens a lot with grocery delivery, because it's like, no, I don't want you to substitute that. And they're like, oh, well, you'll like this. Trust us. And then I'm like, I don't want that. And they're like, well, I'll just keep it anyway.
Yeah, that's probably where entertainment will go eventually.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, well, this is what we've decided you're going to watch today. My Spotify kind of does that.
Disney definitely does that. This is going into the vault. You will not enjoy this anymore. Oh, okay. Thanks, Disney.
Now, we heard about Tesla and their changes to their whole Powerwall thing. They updated some pricing. They've reduced some of the stuff you can get. They've changed some of the models. And I think it was all leading up, or is currently leading up, to this master plan.
Tesla wants to make every home a distributed power plant. So you get a couple of power walls and the grid is struggling in your area. Guess what? Your home is going to help out the struggling grid in your area. It's pretty brilliant. This is a smaller scale version of what he did in Australia that literally solved Australia's electrical problems.
But it didn't solve it, because remember, they were still having that offset where they had to charge people.
Well, it's solved in whatever area they worked in, but now he wants to do it in like whatever the other area was.
Well, that's what this is. So the Australian thing, the solution was build more poles and infrastructure. But you don't have to build more poles and infrastructure if you can get everybody to put power storage in their home. So then the grid can just balance itself like that.
Seems like we should still invest a little bit more in infrastructure. This just buys us time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what happens if, there's some sort of like social movement? It's like, turn off the walls.
Or a mild rain.
Yeah. Or, an ice storm when there shouldn't be one.
A mild weather event. Oh, no.
Or volcanic ash. Yeah. I guess the regular power grid wouldn't save us from some of those things.
Yeah.
And oh boy, are some of you not going to like this, because this is the dark truth that no one wants to admit. And that is that Tesla, without the helping hand of the evil shadow government, would be bankrupt.
Tesla loses a lot of money selling cars, but it makes it back on credits and Bitcoin. So this is from Jalopnik. Please redirect your rage there, not here. And this is saying that, hey, if it wasn't for government subsidies, no one would buy these things. And it's not actually making cars that makes Tesla money. It's all of the other things. And that is an interesting way to look at it.
And they sold fewer cars than they did the previous year, and they lost about $1,000 per car.
It says without the $619 million in energy credits, which are tapering off or something before too long, and the BTC sales, which is, the cryptocurrency stuff, Tesla would have actually managed to lose $181 million in quarter one.
Well, yeah, the reason the credits aren't going to last forever is because every time one of the traditional car companies brings on an electric car, they need fewer of them.
Yeah.
So time's running out. But it was a brilliant move with the Bitcoin. But at this point, keep in mind, you're not investing in a car company. You're investing in a cryptocurrency hedge fund.
That also makes cars.
Yeah, poorly. And we talked about this story yesterday, but this just points out the extreme protest coming from Team Bezos about this decision.
Bezos Blue Origin protests NASA award astronaut lunar lander contract to Musk's SpaceX. Yeah, mostly they just seem to be saying that the proposal response is flawed because it doesn't cover ABC, XYZ. And, I don't know. I really would like to read it, but what they describe sounds like Musk's characteristic, like cowboy, like, let's just get started on the work and we'll figure it out later, which is exactly what he did with the Vegas tunnels.
It's exactly that, because the timeline is everybody came back to them with their proposal, and NASA was like, you're all insane. We don't have this much money. We have about half this much money. So go back and tell us you can do it for half this amount of money. And Blue Origin and some of the other people were like, I don't even know if that's safe. And Tesla was like, yeah. And we got it. Don't worry.
We're sending Jeb up right now.
And he made, did you see his statement about he expects people to die on Mars under his watch? Yeah. He should know. And self-driving car world, of course, Tesla, I guess they are still the leader. Would you still call them the leader?
Yeah.
But competition is hot and everybody's trying to get in that space. And people who tried before are now giving up.
Lyft will sell its self-driving car unit to a subsidiary of Toyota for $550 million. Listen, when Level 1 gets big, this section would have been, preceded by a montage of Lyft and their executives saying, self-driving is the future. By this time next year, Lyft drives are going to be all self-driving, because there's a lot of that. There's just a crazy amount of that. But yeah, Toyota's going to buy it. I hope Toyota does more vetting of this kind of thing than GM, because I would be surprised if Lyft really has anything tangible. I mean, I could have hit up Toyota. It's like, look, I got this little model that I did in the Unity engine. You want to buy that? I'm
sure they've got something, but it's got to be better than what's already out there. It doesn't make any sense.
Could be. I think we're looking at another Nikola, but I don't have any. It just smells funny. I don't have any evidence or anything to support that.
Who needs evidence?
I just think
it's 2021.
It just doesn't smell right. I don't know. Something weird going on.
We just go with our feelings. And you know who went with their feeling and slashed to the bone? This was a brilliant move, I think, because this leaves only one still standing, and it's the king. But how long can the king stand up to this pressure?
Microsoft shakes up the PC gaming industry by reducing the Windows Store cut to just 12%. If Steam, Valve, I think that's what you're alluding to, follows suit, this will upend a number of things. But I think this also really severely weakens the whole Fortnite argument with Epic and Apple, and that leads into our next story.
Yeah, and Valve is still at 30. Yeah. So a massive cut. They were previously 30. And as you alluded to, you might think that Epic and Microsoft, because of their common enemy, might work together.
No.
They would not.
Fortnite is not on the Microsoft Xbox Cloud gaming service because Epic will not allow it. So honestly, I think this is a masterstroke by Microsoft to go to 12%, because it's going to make Epic's case a lot harder if the judge is looking at this kind of thing. On the one hand, Epic is going to say, yes, that's what Apple should charge, 12%. But on the other hand, because Epic has not been dealing with Microsoft in kind of a clean way on their store, it kind of undermines some of their arguments in the case.
Now, Microsoft wants to be sort of a sub-channel in everybody else's distribution platform.
Yeah.
And they're saying that every time they've approached Epic about that, Epic was like, no, you're a competitor. And that is the excuse Epic is using for not giving them Fortnite as well.
It's also not really clear, like, Gabe Newell saw something horrifying from Microsoft in the era of, like, Windows Vista to Windows 7, which made him consider, like, Linux gaming, and has made Valve fund a number of projects that have made gaming on Linux actually a lot better. We have a lot to thank for Valve in terms of gaming on Linux. And I wonder if some of whatever the vision that was shared with Gabe Newell under NDA is some of this, because the very low App Store commission could bring more games, not just to the PC side of the Microsoft Store, but the eventual, unification of the Xbox Store stuff and the Windows Store stuff. Because gaming on your Xbox through your Surface, and your Surface doesn't have to have graphics horsepower. There's a lot of opportunities to get tendrils in all kinds of other markets, and then like Apple, you're basically stuck on that platform. You can't mix and match devices from different places.
I guarantee the Linux gaming percentage is so small they don't really care.
Well, they're still funding it, so it's nice.
No, it's good PR.
Yeah,
It's a nice thing.
Yeah,
it's a beautiful hope, I suppose. But certainly, if Microsoft is involved, that's never going to happen. Well, as you said earlier, online grocery delivery.
This is kind of a dark timeline story.
It's really catching on, and it's become more and more ubiquitous. People are now depending on it, and like you say, it has its downfalls, like the substitutions. They're aggressive about those, but they want more and more people to be able to use it and to have access to it, and so that's why they're doing this.
Instacart expands online shopping to include food stamps. So if you depend on food stamps for your nutrition, you can now use Instacart.
Some places. Aldi, Publix, and one I didn't recognize. Did you recognize that third one? But they are trying to bring more and more online to let you, and this is Snap. I think it's just Snap at this point.
Yeah.
You can use your Snap card to pay for things for delivery. Can you use that for the delivery fee? I don't know if I agree with
Probably
that.
not.
I mean, I guess if you don't have transportation, it kind of makes sense.
Still kind of dark timeline.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, this is getting to the point, the darkness here is that the Biden plan really, really makes everybody dependent on the government in a massive way.
But they're so dysfunctional.
So you're sitting at home, you're getting your free income, you're getting your food delivered to you, you're sitting there, you're consuming the propaganda all around the clock. What kind of citizens are we making here? I mean, is this not, what's the Disney movie where they were all just in their power chairs in space?
WALL-E.
That's it. Are we not advancing rapidly toward that?
If you've seen Walmart, it's already like that. Everyone's in a power chair.
Well, of course, the pandemic is somewhat starting to fizzle out, I guess. I mean, I don't know if we're super close to things being back to normal. I did notice that no one at the gas station was wearing a mask today.
Oh, that's horrifying. Because not all of them are, I guarantee you, not all of them are vaxxed.
Yeah, I'm sure they're not.
And they probably should still be wearing a mask anyway.
But it does seem like a lot of people are ready to just start coming back and start doing everything like we always did before. But perhaps some of the larger corporations will slow down there because, oh boy, are they saving money.
Google has saved over $1 billion in not having people work from the office. And it's not because real estate. It's because of all of the other stuff that goes with going to the office. Because Google had like a concierge service and a laundry service and
massage,
food, and just all kinds of stuff.
Not just food. They had like really good chefs.
Yeah,
that all is a very expensive. Although if you half and half your way back, because that seems like what most companies are doing, right?
Yeah.
Like some of you can come back, and if you don't want to, you don't have to. But do you still cut those services?
I think it would probably be a capacity thing. I think that the happy medium is probably coming to work a few days a week to just do the stuff that, it makes sense to do in a small team, and then working from home. Like when when you're eyeball deep in work and you know what your tasks are and you have a comfortable place to work at home, that's a big distraction free. Then it's fine. There's not really any productivity loss.
But I'm saying that makes excellent sense for your employees. But what about the guy making the breakfast burritos?
Well, he would only be making breakfast burritos for, say, half or a third of the employees at any given time. So you need less of him.
Yeah, but he still probably costs the same amount per day, right?
No, you would probably need fewer of them. You could get by with one chef instead of three. And one office, it's a shared working office. Although that also gets weird because it's like, oh, this is the, shared work office with like a Bob and and I don't know, somebody else. And it's like Bob always eats Doritos and there's always Dorito dust all over everything.
Have you heard of hot desking?
Yeah.
That sounds like the biggest nightmare.
Yeah.
Way worse than the open office.
Yeah. I've also seen that referred to as hoteling, It's like, oh, this is my office this week, and it's just.
But here's the thing. Let's say you have 3 breakfast burrito chefs, right? And you only need 1. But the best one is a white male.
He's gone. He's gone. He's gone. Sorry.
Well, not this year. Oh, wait, that already happened this year. So definitely not this year. But next year, maybe you will get to board the hype train in person.
CES 2022 will return to Las Vegas in person. The tech gathering will happen on location next January after 2021's all-digital event. That is unless, of course, there's a mutation.
Or the whole India thing bleeds over again.
Well, that ultimately would be a mutation.
So look forward to that, I guess. And this story harkens back to that whole YouTube story. Remember?
It was pulled this morning. It was pulled this morning.
Oh, from there.
Yeah.
So if you remember that whole thing about YouTube making a lot of money, more and more people are getting on the YouTube platform. It's actually increasing where all the other big media companies are not. It makes you wonder about this. Do they really need to go this hard?
Roku warns YouTube TV customers that service could go dark due to Google's monopoly moves and disappointed. YouTube says it's bargaining in good faith update. So, you guys are the cattle. Like, this is not good for the user. The user doesn't matter in this equation. And this is one of the stories that you should, internalize and keep with you forever. Never forget that you are basically cattle to these companies. Because what is a Roku? It's a glorified web browser. How is this any, it's kind of an argument for Google, but at the same time, it's kind of not. Because it's like, it's a media consumption device. They should not be the gatekeepers of that. Period. That should not be part of their business model.
And when the media is broken up like it is now, and you have all these different sources for it, and all these different places that are trying to aggregate it, you're buying from Roku, but ultimately it's not Roku's decision what you can see on a Roku.
Yeah.
So they sold it to you without any plans of doing something like this, and yet they don't have a choice. They have to remove a huge part of your enjoyment.
Yeah.
Just build a little HTPC. You don't need Roku. It'll cost a little more, but you'll never have to deal with this, and it'll be so much faster.
Yeah.
And you can watch 4K.
Yeah.
I figured that you got a nice little shot of Schadenfreude.
Yeah, I did.
Reading this headline. And I got to admit, it does not look good.
No, it's just Oracle MO, standard issue behavior for Oracle executives.
I don't know if it's standard issue, but it's bad.
Oracle VP Ken Gluck suspended by Twitter for doxing an Intercept reporter. Basically, he posted and was like, hey, everybody go harass her. And that is not something that is behavior, that is becoming of an executive.
Well, but you're leaving out, she exposed some very unpleasant truths about Oracle and this man.
Alleged truths.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not looking good for the home team, though.
He wrote a blog post, saying why that wasn't true. It didn't seem super convincing. And then on top of that, he sort of weaponized his Twitter followers.
Oracle's actually been doing a good job with their cloud services thing lately, but the cloud services wins notwithstanding. Before that, they were about 70% intellectual property litigation and 30% technology. So, yeah.
Well, this was about those banned Chinese companies. Remember that?
Yeah.
Well, Oracle might be selling them stuff on the down low.
Yeah.
And this reporter might have sniffed it out.
Do you not understand? That's how we do business. We've already saturated the American market. We have to expand. We have to sell to Iran. They're the only ones that have dollars left.
And as we mentioned, India having a bit of a tough time right now. They're kind of where China was when all this started.
Yeah.
And the Modi government, they don't like to be criticized. They really, really don't like to be criticized.
The New York Times has this article. The outbreak rages. India orders critical social media posts to be taken down.
Now, this is not even like anti-vax.
No, one of the posts that they had taken down was a complaint that, there was a bunch of people on an airplane that boarded with a thing that say that they had been tested and that they were negative, But then when they landed, they were tested, and like over 50 people on the flight actually tested positive, and that was one of the things they wanted taken down.
Because it's just embarrassing. It's not misinformation. It's not anything that you would consider to be, against the spirit of doing our best during the pandemic. It's just information that's embarrassing to the government.
We had those other stories earlier in the week about, France and the UK and stuff like that. And when you see those kinds of stories about extremism, you have to look, because when we build the mechanisms to make it that easy, there is the temptation in situations like this to do that.
I assumed it was biche. It's not. They clarify in the story. It's bitch.
Facebook flummoxed by the town in France. I'm not going to bait the algorithm. I'm sorry.
That's not one of the 7 words. Do you think the algorithm?
Algorithm doesn't care. Algorithm is a fickle mistress.
So yeah, they point out the E is silent, and they have run afoul of this before.
The algorithm keeps deleting the city, and they keep putting it back. And then the new version of the algorithm keeps deleting the city. Again, it's a common theme on the Level 1 news. How is the algorithm oppressing humanity? There's Exhibit A.
So they have faltered or given up and made a new Facebook page that is their postal code instead. With the hopes.
Yeah, I was going to say, how long do you think it is before they officially change the name of the town? Because that's how, this is not the first time we've had this story. There have been at least 2 other stories that we've covered, and it's like, ha ha ha, this happened, and then 6 months later, it's like, okay, now they're considering changing the name of the town because they can't fight the algorithm. Do you think you're going to be able to fight the algorithm when it loses your car if they can't change the name of a town?
They also pointed out, and this is terrifying, and I guess we kind of have this, but we still do have local news. This is such a small town in France. They don't have local news, so Facebook is their de facto news outlet.
And that's why the future of humanity is doomed.
Spotify is obviously trying to get into the podcast space. I'll tell you, I'm a Spotify user. I just do not get tempted by the podcast. I don't care. But they really, really, really want to make that a thing, and they're doubling down.
Spotify is launching a podcast subscription system, and unlike Apple, it won't take a cut from creators. It's like, hey, you want to create a popular podcast? Come to Spotify. We're not going to take a cut yet.
Did you see Joe Rogan's anti-vax comments?
He got in a lot of trouble for those.
Oh, the internet went crazy over that. That's hilarious.
I think Dr. Fauci personally responded to those as well.
But that was a big dream for him.
Oh, I was hoping the story was in nonsense. It should have gone in nonsense.
Well, it's social media.
No, it's also nonsense.
He's trying.
It's a good lead into Friday.
And it is our last story of the day, because I always try to make the most entertaining stories last. And this one is fantastic. It's fantastic. I need to know the number, don't you? I want to know how much this cost. That is the only thing that I don't know that I desperately need to know.
Coding experts tell Salon that Mike Lindell's botched social site was doomed to fail. So he tried to use Drupal apparently for a social media site, and it folded like a paper crane.
Now, we've used Drupal a lot, and can confirm right around 10,000 records.
It starts to get a little problematic.
Now, you can do other things to make it work in that. I mean, you have to basically, go outside of its machinery and do it yourself, but it'll still work. But according to the Acquia guy who was running through this,
they didn't even turn on aggregation.
They didn't know the first thing about it. They basically installed it as if it were a blog and then said, all right, let's use this for a Twitter clone.
Well, at least it was not WordPress.
They would already be hacked. Although, how long until they let a security update go too long?
Yeah, the first security update, literally the first one.
So this went down on Thursday, and Thursday of the because
a week ago.
This is Wednesday. Okay, yeah. So last Thursday, and still it's up, but it's not actually letting you do anything other than watch like 2 videos.
So it's just static HTML at this point, as they're like, well, I don't know.
So, and the guy, the Acquia guy, was like, yeah, I love Drupal. Listen, I've been working with Drupal for like 15 years. Don't use Drupal for this. That's really stupid.
Oh, we can all point and laugh. Great. All right, so Friday we've got a bunch of nonsense, and what's left?
Actually, two design stories I forgot that Krista wasn't going to be here. We'll look at those anyway. And security, have we done security yet?
No, there is actually a fair bit of security news this week, too.
So it'll be security nonsense and a little bit of design without Krista. So
we'll see Friday. It's Friday, May 7th, 2021, and we're here for nonsense. Well, at least I'm here for the nonsense, but we've also got a little bit of design and security. But the nonsense is really where it's at, so just skip to that. You don't even care about this part.
Krista doesn't hate the security section, but I feel like the security section is probably helpful for maybe a small portion of our audience, but really helpful. No affiliation at all with DigitalOcean. It's very important.
DigitalOcean says the customer billing data has been accessed in a data breach. Oh, no. Now, DigitalOcean is pretty big, but there's not really... DigitalOcean hasn't provided a lot of details here.
First, last four of your credit card and something else, right?
Yeah.
So a pretty good... Oh, the bank that your credit card was issued by. So a pretty good starter set of Fraud 101 data.
Sounds like a mailing list for competing companies to reach out and say, would you like to have a different provider?
You know who hasn't been breached? And who knows, perhaps this little tool could have been used during that breach. We really don't know exactly what happened, but we do know that there's all kinds of weaponized horror out there, and some of it was created by the quote-unquote good guys.
Security firm Kaspersky believes that it's found the new CIA malware. They think it's CIA malware because its pedigree and coding is such that it doesn't really have a lot of in common with other, malware that's been used by criminal gangs or anything like that. But it does have a few things in common with stuff that showed up as part of like State Department training material or something. So maybe.
That's an interesting thought experiment. If I sit you down and I say, okay, write this program, but don't do it in your way of programming. Try to pretend to be somebody else.
It's hard.
I can't imagine. You'd have to learn what things to change.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing. I'm sure that there are some Chinese and Russian nationals who are quite adept at it. And Signal, now we learned that Signal has discovered a flaw in the Cellebrite software. It turns out the Cellebrite software not very hardened.
Not a flaw. It is an endless bounty of flaws.
Yeah, flaws all the way down, which is embarrassing because you're supposed to be a security company, but also a problem because you are being used in the court system.
Signal's Cellebrite hack is already causing grief for the law. So if you use Signal, they're adding stuff to Signal that will crash, or allegedly. It seems like this is what's happening. If you use Signal, because Cellebrite is trying to target Signal, it's like, all right, the gloves are off. Signal's putting stuff in there that is corrupt in such a way that it will cause the Cellebrite device to malfunction or do something weird. So this lawyer has said, hey, if it's that flawed, my client was convicted only on evidence from this thing, and if it's that flawed, then there's maybe something to explore here. And so this case is being opened up. But also, in addition to that, you remember how in the Signal video they were saying, oh, this weird, they're bundling some Apple libraries and stuff with the application. I wonder if they got Apple's permission to do that. Those have been removed, and a memo was sent to law enforcement saying, you're going to have to do some steps now to scan Apple devices. Oops.
I wonder if that will be an Apple lawsuit. Apple is single-handedly probably hiring like half of the people that passed the bar in 2021.
Yeah, I think that, Apple, like, if that were Joe Random Citizen that were hacking around on iTunes, yes, the Apple, lawyer helicopter would be on their compound immediately. They would be scooped up in an unmarked van. But I think that Apple's going to have a very soft response to this Cellebrite thing, and that tells you everything you need to know.
But what about...
I hope I'm wrong about that.
What about the fact that it could have been that when Apple refused the FBI in that one case, they turned around and still used Apple software?
Yeah.
I think Apple would be very angry about that.
I don't know. I think it's all theater. I don't think they really care.
Yes, you're right. they'll be angry in public, but that's enough.
If they were legitimately angry, though, they would be dispatching the black helicopters. Like, we would know about it because there would be so much fallout from it that it would be very easy to find and talk about.
I'm sure we'll hear more about it. I'm curious to follow that one. And Do Not Pay is this amazing. Did they ever port that to Android?
What?
The Do Not Pay app? It used to be just iOS, right?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know off the top of my head.
But it is an incredible thing. You pay, it's a subscription fee, but they have so many different things now. It'll get you out of parking tickets. It will file certain like class action stuff on your behalf. And now, an amazing new feature.
Legal chatbot Do Not Pay adds anti-facial recognition filters to its suite of handy tools. This is amazing. They took a picture of Joe Biden and run it through the tool and then uploaded it. And it was like, I don't know who this is. I don't recognize it. No idea who this is.
And as you can see, to the human eye, it's not really that much of a difference. Now, we've looked at this before in terms of technology that obfuscates pictures to an AI without doing it to a human. But this is fully automated.
Yeah. The unfortunate thing is that now what they're doing in this algorithm is going to be incorporated into the facial recognition algorithm. It's going to automate the perturbance on the images and then run that through the AI as well. And eventually, in pretty short order, this kind of technology I think is going to be rendered. It's like the holographic banana problem.
But is that going to be better or worse in terms of identifying black people?
Probably worse.
Because it could easily be that what they introduced to overcome this makes it actually worse in a real world
What
scenario.
an incredible side effect. I mean, can you imagine when we've got the robot farmers and it's like, why don't we have any crops of bananas this year? And it's like, well, we accidentally thought it was a fungus. So the robots killed all the bananas.
Yeah, the laser weed killer got confused. Somebody put QR code stickers on half the bananas. And
how does this even happen?
Now we're going to have starvation. Sorry. Ransomware continues to ravage the world, and law enforcement will tell you don't pay. Because what else are you going to do? But they're in a bit of a pickle in this one.
Ransomware gang threatens to expose police informants if the ransom is not paid. So the ransomware gang got in. They were able to extract like 250 gigabytes of data? Something crazy like that.
Pretty much everything. So you can see some of these file names. Seems a little risky. Look at this juicy directory. So they're saying, hey, we've got, not only do we have all the personal information about where your cops live and how much money they make and all of their complaints that were against them and sealed, but we also know about your informants. And that could be real dangerous.
So they're trying to figure out how to get Bitcoin.
Remember the time Hillary Clinton revealed who some spies were?
Oh, that was a total mistake.
Yeah, well, this was too. And macOS gets a new bypass this week. However, they have already patched it, so don't worry too much.
A software bug let malware bypass macOS's security defenses. It poses a document, but it was able to launch Calculator. And that's because macOS just not very hardened. macOS is probably going to have security issues until they get that campus in North Carolina up and running and they can have some actual real, like, the security researchers that work for Apple, they've got probably at least a few really smart people, but it's like for every one position they actually have, they probably need about 8 more people. Like, they're $1 trillion company. The team handling security should not fit in one building, and it's not that way.
But if they hired everybody they need for security, they wouldn't be $1 trillion company. They'd be like a $500 billion company. And that's unacceptable.
Apparently.
Of course. The pandemic vaccination stuff continues to roll out. It seems like we're hitting a bit of a plateau, and I got to admit, I'm part of that plateau. Haven't done it yet. But I am not actively fighting against it, which seems like a bad thing to do.
Anti-Vaxxer hijacks QR codes at check-in sites. And, yeah, don't do that. Why would you do that? Come on.
So I guess this helps you, like, pull up your place in line or whatever. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just information or whatever, but they just put a sticker over it, and the new QR code went to anti-vax websites. That's a lot of effort.
Yeah.
You think anybody was swayed by that?
No.
Like, you know, like QR, and they're like, "Oh my God, he's right," and they just ran out.
Well, I mean, maybe because the Facebook posts will do that, and that's just horrifying.
Yeah.
The lady at the end of the street with 20 cats knows what she's talking about.
I like to think about, remember the sweet salad days when everything was better, and we were all outraged because of the credit companies leaking all of our info. I was like, it can't get any worse than this, and then it just fell off a cliff. But we can't forget that because it's still happening.
Experian API exposed credit scores of most Americans. So all of that data that was leaked, turns out there was an API where you could get much of the same data on purpose. And it's like, oh, wait, yeah, this needed to be behind authentication. Our bad.
So all you had to have was an address and a name.
Now, the API is still there.
Right.
Experian customers can still use it. It
was a third party.
It's just not as open to the internet as it was.
So they didn't change the API. They contacted all of the partners, and they said, hey, don't do this.
Welcome to your dark future.
So I'm sure it'll happen again.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, all those partners, anybody that works there, still has access to all this.
Yeah, it's still there. It's like oops, it's on the internet. It's still on the internet. It's just that there's one extra parameter in the get string now, and it's still there.
Now, we don't have Krista for these stories, and that's unfortunate because, you know, this is her expertise. I feel like, what do you think your sensitivity to fonts is? I feel like mine is incredibly low.
Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah, it's kind of all the same.
Yeah.
But Krista would doggedly argue against that, and apparently a lot of people would.
Microsoft is changing the default Office font and wants your help picking a new one. It's the first time Microsoft Office font has changed in nearly 15 years.
So here are your candidates. I really don't see a whole lot of difference. I would probably choose based on the word I like the best, which is Seaford.
I can't wait for the documents to show up. It's like, this document is from the 90s, and it's like in one of these fonts, and it's like, this font didn't exist in the 90s. Oh, right.
Oh, you mean like when somebody tries to prove something with it?
Yeah.
Send you a Word document.
Yeah.
If you drive around in the suburbs, you're going to see a lot of little blue octagons sticking out of everybody's front lawn. But it's a different little blue octagon, and that is the conflict.
ADT sues Amazon's Ring over the use of a blue octagon logo. Now, in fairness, Ring's blue is more of a, like, seafoam blue, and ADT's is more of a royal blue.
And when you're driving past someone's house and see a tiny sign in their front garden, you can definitely tell the difference.
ADT's business model has got to be like in danger because.
Oh yeah. I thought you were going to say it's bad. I was like, yeah, but Ring. You know, I watch a lot of. I'm fascinated by the more extreme personalities in the world. So I watch YouTube videos a lot of people who talk about their lives of crime. And there was a house burglar, and he was like, yeah, even if you don't get a security system, get one of the signs that says ADT wireless, because I'll pass you up every time. I don't want to mess with a wireless security system. So, pro homeowner tip. And you can buy those, I think, on eBay.
I've had a couple of porch pirates that make it like two things up the, like 2 clicks up the stair, and then the motion porch light comes on, and they look up, and because the porch light is right next to the camera, and then they back away slowly.
So that's happening at night?
No, the light comes on whether it's daytime or not.
Oh, okay.
But the porch is covered enough that you notice it. You hear the click, and you notice it, and it's just like, oh, it's kind of funny.
I think I'm insulated enough from all the traffic because it's a dead end road that I don't have to worry too much about the pirates.
Yeah.
Although maybe that's an opportunity target. I don't know.
I haven't had anything stolen yet, so that's good.
The woman next door definitely just watches everything that happens in the neighborhood. And I find that annoying, but at the same time, one time she was like, oh, hey, your package is at the wrong house. And I was like, how do you know?
It's funny, that abandoned house that I have to keep an eye on that's out in the middle of nowhere, the neighbor lady there is the same way. And a couple of times the delivery service has delivered something for her to that house. And I've had to call her, and she's like, "Oh, yeah, I know. I just was waiting on you to tell me to go. It was okay to go get it." It's like, all right. Sounds good.
Well, you have to worry about that kind of thing because when there's an empty house, it might be something that someone wants to send contraband to and pick it up in a safe way of what you're describing. And that might have been what this gentleman had to do because he was definitely using an illicit substance.
Oh, I don't remember the headline for this one, but this startup CEO was dismissed because he was using LSD at work.
Now, he claimed he was...
It's a Bloomberg article.
He claimed he was microdosing. It's my understanding that LSD microdosing, you don't get any kind of feeling from that.
I don't think so.
But they point out that he was let go after a conference room encounter during a meeting. So I think he might have not gone micro. He might have just dosed. And it was obvious to some other people in the meeting that he was tripping balls.
Yeah, some of the quotes in there is just the incredulity. It's like this is how we do things in the valley, and it's like, is it really? Maybe we should kill the valley with fire.
I think it kind of is. Now, I don't believe a lot of that stuff. To me, it's kind of like the same kind of stuff you hear about CBD.
Yeah,
it's like, I don't know, guys. I don't know if I believe it, but if it were proven and legalized, and you found out that microdosing LSD could give you like superpowers when it came to technology, would you do it?
That's how Steve Jobs got his superpowers, he said.
That's how he got his cancer. I mean, it's not how he got it, but it's how he didn't get rid of it.
You have lymphoma. Yeah, no, I wouldn't. I'm too afraid of messing with my brain.
This headline is just funny because of who it happened to. I mean, it's not funny, but it's the reason it's in the nonsense section.
Police are investigating arson after, I'm not going to say that word because the algorithm definitely gets triggered. This particular CEO of a website that's not for anybody under 18, went up in flames. Now, he wasn't living there. That's the headline to get your attention, but it's kind of clickbait because he was building this mansion and it's under construction and he was going to move in, but then he was like, nah, I don't want to move in. I'm going to sell it. So it was listed for $19 million.
19.8. It might as well be 20.
20, yeah. So,
but they caught people
breaking in,
trespassing on the property shortly before the fire, so they are for sure thinking it's arson.
Yeah.
But I wonder why.
It could be arson, or it could be, hey, there's this giant house under construction and the south wing is just open. We're homeless. Let's go live there.
But why burn it down?
Well, they might have created a fire to keep warm because there was nothing else, and then it sort of spread.
Wasn't it in California?
Yeah, it was in California. So California gets cold at night.
In April?
Yeah.
You're probably okay in California. Yeah. So that's unfortunate. And another instance, God, it's such a good lead-in, but I can't.
Yeah, I know. The one, yeah, because of the animal. Yeah.
Another headline about beavers.
Internet outage in Canada blamed on beavers gnawing through fiber optic cables.
Do you think that's an unusually large beaver? It looks massive.
TELUS said this. No, the disturbing thing was they said that part of the beaver dam was the marking tape that they usually are on fiber cables that are buried. So apparently these things got super far underground because they had used some of the marking tape as part of their dam as well.
I bet they were blown away at how good a dam building material tape is.
Yeah.
I was like, I've never had anything this good building dams with.
The beavers have leveled up. They now understand, like, they're coming for our civilization because they want more tape.
This is another Krista story, although it is a fantastic engagement challenge. I mean, I couldn't come up with anything good, could you?
No.
But it's such a great prompt.
What do you call a bunch of black holes? A crush? A scream? There are pods of whales and gaggles of geese, and a quantum of scientists. Now astronomers are wondering which plural term would
I've got one. A noodle. A noodle of black holes. So they have discovered that black holes can hang out together in little clusters. And we're finding more and more of these. So how do you describe that?
A torus of black holes. No.
Yeah, they did have some great ones. And they pointed out that, these it was a room full of PhDs. And as soon as that was presented, They were just cracking each other up, trying to throw, it completely derailed the meeting. Here's a dark story, and just a reminder of how incestuous the roles of government and higher education and pure evil are often.
Harvard closes Evolution Center after finding connections to Jeffrey Epstein. What? And it's like, this headline doesn't make sense. There has to be something more to it. No, that pretty accurately sums up the entire story.
Now, you might be thinking, well, how is he connected? Did he donate money? Well, yes, but he also had an office, and he visited there. They said he visited there 40 times during the time that he was. And I don't know, does Harvard have any attractive young girls?
He was definitely not scouting for talent.
Yeah.
Yeah, this reeks of like something more sinister going on, in all honesty.
So the guy who was his friend who works at that college has also come under some fire, and he's going to have to answer some difficult questions. It's just terrible. This story has been talked about a lot, but they are finally doing it, and they're doing it in a big way.
Thousands of the first genetically modified mosquitoes to be released in Florida. This is probably not like the ones that Bill Gates released during the TED Talk.
I think it's almost exactly the same.
It is, yeah.
These are they're only males, and they only are supposedly able to create non-viable female offspring.
And that's because dengue fever is breaking out in Florida?
So now they did try this once before, not in Florida. I think it was in Brazil, was it?
And it turns out that those mosquitoes could actually reproduce.
Yeah, it was the whole Jurassic Park thing. They're like, nope, you can't stop us. This is nature. It does what it wants. But good luck. Maybe you should try to collect some mosquitoes, so you'll have, you can keep a mosquito collection. It's like, oh yeah, these are the GMO mosquitoes. You can tell because of the little death's head on the bottom of them. It says property of Microsoft. I was really upset they didn't have a picture with this, because I was trying to imagine how it works. Could you?
That's your engagement challenge. Imagine, but don't write it out.
Yeah, we'll get punished if you put it in the comments too. But could you have any idea?
No.
I can't. Yeah.
No. German police say the grenade-shaped item in the forest was, in fact, not a grenade. And I declined to elaborate further because of the algorithm. The headline was, it was a Bavarian forest, and the object was actually made of rubber and not intended for violence.
I imagine it had some branding on it, because they Googled it, and they were like, oh, okay. But there were some other indicators, because there was some other, let's say, paraphernalia that was found with it.
But it's not unusual for this forest in Bavaria to have other munitions from World War II, because it was an active battle site, for World War II. So other things have turned up at this particular Bavarian forest, but in this case, no.
I bet that particular Bavarian forest will get a lot more foot traffic after this. Sounds exciting. This one, I put it in there purely
for the
name.
Yeah.
Because there's so many jokes you can make here. They practically make themselves.
Myanmar, which is, we really hope that things are not really terrible there.
Well, it's
as good as it right? Ethnic Karen guerrillas capture army base as resistance coup grows.
Ethnic Karens.
That is the name of the group.
And we should make light of it, because it's a real group and they're having real problems. But ethnic Karens, it's so good. I suppose an ethnic Karen in our version of it would have to be pure lily white, right?
Yeah.
And it would probably have to be either Catholic or Protestant.
The thing that the most Karen thing I've ever seen was the lady accosting the surveyor. He had like his little laser sextant thing out, and she was like, "No, we don't want none of that in our neighborhood." And like she was stopped in the middle of the road, like freaking out. He was just like, "Yeah,
surveying."
Yeah. It's a pretty horrifying video.
That's a woman who very slowly over the years has been moving her property line. People do that. And, a terrible headline, certainly if you're the Disney Corporation, but I think this is a bigger problem than anybody realizes or wants to realize, is these buskers, these street people who dress up, and by the way, Disney would not tolerate this if they could stop it. But they're not always the most mentally healthy people
No.
in the world.
Person wearing a Chewbacca costume wanted in New Orleans stabbing incident. Have you seen Chewie? Chewie's fallen on hard times.
So he got in an argument. A lot of times what they'll do is they'll be like, oh, let's take a picture. Oh, I'll get a picture with Spider-Man or whatever. And then you take the picture and they're like, oh, it's $15.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, no, I didn't agree to that. And then they pull a knife. So
And, occasionally go through with it.
what do you think the Chewbacca busker smells like?
It's not a pleasant smell.
How often is that suit laundered?
It's never actually been laundered.
How many fleas are living in it right now? And our final story is one that you're not going to be able to say either. But I am going to show you the picture. I don't care if we get demonetized because it's so amazing.
Bowser is being censored by Nintendo, but it's not that Bowser. It's a Bowser that was on Patreon, and it was this modeler who makes toys for grown-ups, let's say.
It's not a toy, it's digital. You can use it. Is it gone? There was a picture of it. It's gone.
I thought it was a real thing that you could order. I was pretty sure it was a real thing you could order.
You might be able to get one made, but it's for some kind of online movie making thing. So you can use that as an asset in your digital movie.
Well, it was just like it was not really super connected to in Nintendo's intellectual property, but
here we go.
Yeah, I mean, but that's not like why would it's just literally just the name Bowser. So
it looks too human, don't you think?
A little, yeah.
Also, isn't it hilarious that the CEO is named Bowser?
Yeah. Yeah.
It looks too human. But if it went to court, I got to think Nintendo loses, don't you?
I think they probably would, yeah. I don't think like on the evil corporate scale, that might be the engagement challenge here is like Apple, Disney, Nintendo. Like which one is the most hideously evil and does not because Nintendo is evil on a level in that they have beloved stories, but they absolutely will not tolerate those stories living in your head rent free.
But Nintendo, I would argue, while maybe tipping the scale too much toward the evil end, doesn't hit as hard on the impact to society.
That's true.
So do you grade on that?
Well, I mean, that's an engagement challenge.
But one tweet did point out, if Nintendo took this down, then that means that they are confirming that is Bowser. So this is now canon. Which makes Bowser's kidnapping of Peach so much more terrifying.
Yeah.
Because she wouldn't live through that.
No.
She's a small girl.
Please join us on Patreon or Float Plane.
That's why we're not getting any of that YouTube money. No one's getting it.
This is on Input and Twitter, so I mean, surely it can't be that bad.
But they did not embed the tweet.
Oh, yeah.
You had to click to it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hopefully we'll have Krista back next week.
Oh, maybe we can sneak in. Maybe we can pixelate it on YouTube, but on Patreon and Float Plane, no pixelization.
Oh. Yeah, let's get the editors on that. Let's put in the project manager.
Yeah.
Pixelate Bowser's. What did you do today, honey?
I guess that would probably actually only work on Float Plane. Because I don't think you can.
Oh, yeah, Patreon passed those rules. Yeah. But is it, I mean, I guess people could use that as a turn on rather than just a, what am I saying? Of course they would.
I don't even think it's recognizable as what that is unless somebody like if they just showed me a picture of that, it would take me a few seconds to realize, I
would just turn away in horror.
It would take me a few seconds to turn away in horror, but...
Oh, no, because in college, nobody burned you with that. They would go in and change your desktop.
No.
Oh, we used to do that all the time, and it was horrific. You had to try to find the worst one you could. That's a deep pool, unfortunately.
Yeah.
All right. See you next week. Linode.
Thanks, Linode.